brisket, pastrami. The world recognizes quintessentially Jewish cuisine as being beef-based and delicious. Unfortunately, the Jewish community has cultivated an attitude that directly harms the environment through its relationship with food. Dedicated to Torah study, it has neglected its responsibility to the environment, erring by subscribing to dining specifications that increase an individual Jew's carbon footprint. In reality, kosher practices encourage us to consume more beef than the environment can sustain. In order to counteract current, unsustainable approaches to kashrut, we must adapt our understanding of the Jewish diet and reconstruct Judaism's very attitude towards the environment. Genesis chapter 1 verse 28 commands that humans master the earth and rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and all living things that creep upon earth. But every seventh year, Jews halt land cultivation so the earth may heal. The scripture also instructs us to not needlessly harm animals and to protect the world for generations to come. Evidently, the Torah presents conflicting messages regarding Jewish interactions with the earth. They are free to subdue the land to their desires, but the soil and creatures upon it still have rights. While initial readings indicate that Judaism promotes a mindfulness of how we interact with the earth, more in-depth analysis shows that the Torah emphasizes imposing human will over the land instead of protecting the future. And protecting the future is challenging when the rabbis explicitly disagree with this protective attitude. They caution us against expressing appreciation towards nature, lest we become distracted from Torah study and forfeit our souls. Fearing biocentrism, the mindset that nature and animals' needs should precede human interests, Jews have come to disregard the world's well-being. Contemporary theologians Jeremy Benson and Havachiro Samuelson encourage modern Jewry to foster spiritual sensitivity to nature through tikkun olam, repairing the earth. Why? While Judaism has opted to focus on the revelation, the world for which God commanded us to protect has spiraled into a dangerous state. Due to increased greenhouse gas emissions, we predict a rise in the global average temperature by 4 to 9 degrees Fahrenheit, ocean acidification, more extreme weather, and a sea level rise of at least a foot by the end of the century. The farm animal production industry releases more greenhouse gases than even the transportation industry. Between producing fertilizers, deforestation to establish grazing land, and housing the animals, meat production poses a massive threat to the environment. Producing a single kilogram of beef produces 36.4 kilograms of carbon dioxide. Moreover, farm animal production accounts for 65% of global nitrous oxide emissions and 9% of all carbon dioxide emissions. And how does kashrut factor into the farm production industry? Compared to those who do not observe kashrut, Jews consume significantly larger quantities of beef per year. Because Jews do not eat pork, a meat whose production releases half the amount of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere as beef, the average kashrut observing Jew eats approximately 48 more pounds of beef annually than those who eat pork. Those who keep kosher essentially release 1,844.24 kilograms of carbon dioxide through their beef consumption. Evidently, kashrut is not inherently beneficial to the environment. If kashrut may in fact harm the environment by encouraging greater consumption of greenhouse gas-greedy products, why do we bother? Has the disregard for the environment become so severe that Jews willfully sacrifice our only planet for some pious hamburgers? Since the 1865 Pittsburgh Platform, Reformed Jews have acknowledged that modern kashrut practices fail to reach any ethical standards or elevate one's spiritual state. Current practices mandate that Jews not consume animals who lack split hooves, do not chew their cud, or have died naturally, and the Torah prohibits eating an animal's blood or a calf that has been cooked in its mother's milk. However, dissatisfied Reformed Jews have broadened the definition of kashrut to include all dietary disciplines undertaken for Jewish religious reasons. Arthur Waskow, an advocate for tikkun olam, offers the dominant solution with his concept of eco-kashrut, which encourages us to extend kashrut to include requirements for how we manufacture products. Eco-kashrut suggests that in dining, Jews must mind not only biblical mandates, but also our food's ecological impact. Limiting consumption of the atmosphere's poison, the fossil fuels that we uncovered over only the last 300 years, is the first step in adapting kashrut for modern ethics. Avoiding pesticides and overgrazing, according to Baal Tashchit, constitutes the second step. Waskow passionately encourages us to substitute organic foods for the pesticide-ridden goods we consume. Perhaps most critically, Waskow suggests that we halt technological development while we re-examine its effects and set aside a special time each year for living lightly on the earth until we develop methods for sustainable agriculture. Though Waskow recommends methods by which we can minimize the effect food has on the climate, he offers few specifications for limitations and adaptations on which foods to eat. Moreover, he does not address the mandate against admiring nature when Jews should be studying Torah. Expanding on Waskau's concepts, various companies such as Earth Kosher and Glotch Organics have hybridized the dining standards from both the kosher and organic communities in order to combat kashrut's higher carbon footprint. These companies maintain the same kosher standard as their predecessors, but refuse to distribute hormones to their livestock, contaminate their fields with pesticides, or confine the livestock to industrial cells built upon deforested land, thereby insinuating that only environmentally safe meat suits rabbinic standards. Earth Kosher and Glotch Organics both possess the New Responsibility Seal, or Heksher, titled Magen Tzedek, Righteous Star, that certifies a company's dedication to the environment. The proliferation of organic and kosher companies indicates a progression in the eco-kosher movement, for we have transitioned from Waskau's mere ideology to definitive action with a market of conscientious Jews. Judaism's shameful contribution to climate change stems from its blatant neglect of its responsibility to act as the world's stewards. Abstaining from additional foods would not remedy the issues with the high amounts of greenhouse gases that the farm animal production industry emits, and it will not replant the trees cut down for factories, but we can demand that the meat we eat come from only environmentally conscious sources. An eco-kosher definition of a kosher animal would only consider an animal fit for consumption if the industry had never injected it with hormones, raised it free range, and utilized less than a given amount of fossil fuels in its production. Additionally, Judaism emphasizes the value of learning and teaching. The entire conflict with nature stems from an insatiable desire to understand the Torah, but relentless devotion to learning causes us to ignore the dirt beneath our feet and the air that fills our lungs. Our environmental salvation must be as much educational as culinary. The Jewish Farm School in Philadelphia arose from a belief that we must experience nature to learn about nature. This Philadelphia-based program aims to cultivate a gardening community, which would assist in alleviating the stress upon the earth and air from intensive factory production. Kashrut is not sustainable. It perpetuates dangerous ancient attitudes towards the environment whilst emitting egregious pollutant levels. Climate change threatens us all, and we have a responsibility to counteract the rising levels of greenhouse gases before they permanently damage the atmosphere, killing the fish and birds and other living things that we must strive to protect. By defining animals as kosher only if they adhere to environmentally conscious production codes, like those of Magen Tzedek, and through an ecological education, we offer future generations an opportunity to study the Torah and fulfill the mitzvot. So, when you bite into your pastrami on rye prepared by releasing greenhouse gases up to the heavens, recall that this heritage, fearful of biocentrism though it may be, both requires and enables you to protect this holy earth.